Fire for your mind. The Kosher Clinician. Hit that like button and share this stream if you're not a beta male.
It was designed to expose men, but it's exposing y'all women. It's showing just how dirty and nasty the men that y'all have been dealing with are. Y'all get online with these high standards that you don't have in real life, which is what I always say. You can't believe what they're saying. You got to watch what they're doing. They can tell you all day what they won't do, but that app is showing you what they will do. Y'all are showing just how low vibrational the men that y'all have to pick from are. You can't sit up and say that you got all these options, yet these are the men that you're picking. The truth is, that's all you got to pick from. You have a bunch of group of nasty, terrible men to choose from, and you're just trying to find the best out of the worst. But all of them are horrible. Everything that you have to choose from is horrible because of how you are as a woman. You carry yourself in a way that there's a very specific type of man who would find you attractive. And that small group of men is who y'all are choosing from. And that's why y'all are sharing the same men. Because out of that small group of men that y'all are all picking from, y'all are trying to find the best looking one, the one who appear to seem like he got some money, even though he usually don't end up having no money. Y'all are all picking and filtering through that small group of disgusting, nasty pookies, right? And no matter what you get online and say about how you want rich men, you ain't even in proximity to rich men. Rich men don't even see you on their radar when you walk by, right? Because nothing about who you are and how you carry yourself would pick up on the radar of a man who got any class about himself, right? Only pookies find you desirable. And that's the reason why y'all are all sharing the same pookies. That's the reason why y'all all sharing the same pookies. It don't matter what y'all get on that app and expose regarding these men, how terrible they done treated you, what STDs they done gave you, how many babies they done had and left. There still will be a line of women ready to give that man a shot to see whether or not she can get better results than you got. So you can never really expose men because there's always going to be women who are willing to test it out for themselves and still see whether or not the stuff the previous women said is actually true.
Fall comes to us in its own time. Finders keepers, losers we.
My perfect man would be a tall black stallion. He loves to cook because I'm not really a good cook, so that's his thing. He loves driving. He loves driving the kids to school in the morning. He's just really, really hands-on, with my kids. He's sterile because he can't have kids of his own, so he really cherishes mine. He's funny. We do movie quotes all the time. Every time we go around, we just laugh and do karaoke. He's smart. He is very good with the money. He takes care of all that, and he just lets me, make the beds and just do me.
I'm just nigga ass, loser ass nigga.
Your video with comments about
He's a
certain
loser.
other female.
Just to let you niggas know, we don't need y'all. We want y'all, but we don't need y'all.
20 years later.
Our black men, we want all y'all back. Because we love you, we see you, kings, and most importantly, we need you. And most importantly, we need you.
And most importantly, we need you.
You can't.
If you a that's for the streets.
You can't delete the ski. You can't delete the ski.
I know a who used to suck dick every month of night.
You can't
delete.
Fire for your mind. The Kosher Clinician.
Aside to become the kosher clinician, the story and the war cry behind the kosher clinician was similar to some of the struggles and the things that I have been through as a man. And some of you men are still going through that right now. There's a philosophical term called an existentialist crisis. Basically what that means is that you begin to ask yourself the question of why am I existing? What is the purpose of my existence? And I think that's been the story of a lot of men that have not been more or less raised or under the tutelage of masculine men. One of the greatest indictments, guys, about the manosphere is that people assert and assume that the manosphere pushes misogyny and hate. But the manosphere is not responsible and was created a silo as an affront to women or black women. But the manosphere was responsible for the pain and suffering that many black men were going through and continue to go through as we speak now. Once again, gentlemen, we are going through an existential crisis. Our country is in trouble. Some of you are in trouble mentally, physically, and emotionally. And you're not ready to move to higher ground until you get the requisite help that's going to help you become the better version of yourself.
Real men put the strap down and we can toss it. This is our culture. Now we talking kosher. Clinician.
All right. There it is. All right. Now hit it for me.
And it ain't culture. 7 in hell is what they taught you. We'll put them, and you can back up in young dose. Kosher. Clinician.
All right, stop that. All I want you to say is, if it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. Say that first, okay? All right, you ready?
Start over?
Yeah, start it.
No. Okay, if it ain't 7, it ain't kosher, and...
If it ain't 7, it ain't culture.
Okay.
Heaven and hell is what they taught you.
Okay, perfect. Do that again, but give me a little attitude. If it ain't 7, it ain't culture.
All right.
Okay, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
And action.
Young heads picking back up in young dolphin. This is our culture. Now we talking kosher. Clinician. That was cool.
If it ain't 7, it ain't culture. Heaven and hell, that's what they told you. Real men put the strap down and we can toss them. Young heads picking back up in young dolphins. This is our culture. Now we talking kosher. Clinician, masculinity issues. Absent fathers who miss you. Mama drama don't kiss you. All a part of the ritual. This is how they get you. Separate the men, women clipping babies pretend to. Damn. Lovers, haters acting like vultures. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. Listen.
All right, guys. Thank you to the 6 of the watching, guys. Do me a favor, share this stream, guys. Share this stream, guys. Thank you once again to the 6 of the watching. We're gonna have a classic show today, but this is gonna be a limited, interrupted conversation, guys. As Darren McPherson and I conducted this interview on Monday, and I decided to use this interview that we had for you guys to listen to for the Sunday show, and then talk about the struggles of masculinity, the problems that I see as a licensed therapist, and why the typical modern woman is not worth men selling for in this day and time. I'm very, guys, I'm passionate about seeing good, righteous black men and white men, not just black men, all men, get quality women. I'm not talking about men that don't take care of their families. I'm not talking about men that don't take accountability for their behaviors. I'm not talking about men that are narcissistic. I'm not talking about men that can't take direction. I'm not talking about men that got a track record of dysfunction. I'm not talking about dusty men. I'm talking about masculine, heteronormative men that take accountability for their behavior, have a blueprint for their family, has a relationship with God, have a blueprint for what they're trying to do with their life, and they don't sit around and blame everybody else for all their troubles and mistakes. I'm talking about men that don't mind saying they're sorry when they do something wrong. I'm talking about real men, not weak men, not men that have the mindset of a woman, not men that are more or less indoctrinated by their mom, but they can't take accountability. Because we got a lot of dusty men out here that are like that. But I'm talking about righteous, godly black men. And if they're not godly, just good men in general. for striving to do good things, even though there might not be means of faith. So this is going to be a comprehensive show, guys. This will be a limited interruption. The goal for the day is 20 super chats, guys. I did an excellent job yesterday. Shout out to the #1 sponsor, who was the Raw Report. Shout out to the International Quiet Storm. Shout out to Gregory Scotland, and also shout out to the brother from North Carolina. I can't think of his name, but anyway, this will be a limited interrupted show. I want you guys to respond to. I will be responding to the chat, and whenever a super chat comes, guys, I will send you guys a thumbs up. But this will be a limited interrupted show. So, guys, let's get ready and let's look at this show and a conversation I had with Brother Darwin McPherson. It was a powerful show. I would argue it was one of my better shows, and he did a great job, guys, narrating the show. So we're going to get into it. We're going to get into it right now, guys. So hold tight.
What is going on, YouTube? Those who are listening, if you want to chat.
And once again, guys, this is going to be a powerful show because some of you men are single. You're looking for godly women. You're looking for good overall women. We understand that the dating market is rare. And don't you let any man shame you to dealing with a woman who does not meet your standards and your qualities. Don't let anybody shame you by saying that God was married to a prostitute. Don't let nobody shame you for that. God used Israel as an example. But if you're a masculine man, you've done things right, you condition yourself, you live by the mandates of God, then the Bible says you delight yourself in the Lord, he'll give you the desires of his heart. So don't let nobody fool you or shame you by having some level of remorse for a woman that willfully chose to make bad choices. So let's get into it. The show, guys. Like and share. This is going to be a powerful show. And donate to the channel. And don't let Gregory Scott and the other brothers that gave him yesterday be the only ones. Let's get into it.
Put a one in the chat. Appreciate for pulling up. Tonight we're going to be talking about the dating market. And we're going to hear interview with the kosher clinician. He's also a content creator as well. And we're going to appreciate that, Kenneth Young. We're going to get his perspective on what he see. And, you know, I'm starting to create a trend over here of bringing experts. What's up, Dr. Steele? Bringing experts to this channel so we can get a different perspective. And I'm not going to hold y'all up. Let's just bring the brother up. What's going on, kosher clinician?
What's up, brother? How you doing, sir? So it's a pleasure to be part of your channel, man, and share this timely dialogue about relationship dynamics and more or less how they impact men and women in this current world that we live in. So it's a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to the conversation and many more dialogues. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no doubt, man. It's great to have you. So, what do you do, and why do you come to YouTube? Like, what compels you to want to bring your skills and expertise and your perspective to YouTube?
Excellent question. So there's an ego defense mechanism, Darren, called sublimation. Sublimation means to take something bad and turn it into good. And you know, every man that you know and I know have been through some type of crisis in their life, but I felt like there was an undervaluation of the need to affirm and address some of the struggles and the pains that men continue or have continued or still are going through now. I've always said, Darren, that a hopeless man is a broken man, and a broken man is very dangerous. And, you know, I've been through my own traumas, you know, lies, manipulations, setups, setbacks. And I want to create a space that more or less hearkened to some of the talking points of the manosphere. But I'm not necessarily a manospherian. I'm an adjacent, meaning I've been advocating for boys and men since doing seminal work at UNC Chapel Hill. I've been doing that since my graduate school days, but also I've been an advocate for boys even back when I was a teacher as a special ed teacher. So I wanted to create an environment where I can more or less take urban topics, Darren, and more or less inculcate them to clinical conversations. You know, if you talk about clinical conversations and don't know how to sell it, then it doesn't make sense. I'll give you an example. There are many treatment models that therapists use. But there's research that says that even though the treatment model can be highly efficacious, many therapists don't know how to sell it. Therefore, it's not that the evidence or the science is invalid, but many people don't know how to sell it. So I said, let me take urban topics and somewhat blend them into more or less clinical conversations to more or less add more nuance to what's going on in the broader world, and to help men understand and see what their worth is. You know, I advocate for men, but also like traditional black women that are trying to get on the program with the men that they love. But unfortunately, Darren, I don't feel that the majority, not all, have been trained to be wives. And not only that, I don't think a lot of young black men or men in general have not been trained or taught how to lead properly. Not because they're doing anything wrong per se, but they tend to compromise their power based on social engineering, but also indoctrination by perhaps the family systems they were brought into, like the son husband, or by lack of having a father, a masculine father in the home to guide them. Because see, you can have a father in the home, but that father in the home might not be a masculine man. So he's still a mental unit. You know, we create a lot of mental eunuchs in the West, and these men don't know how to stand on business, but not only they don't know how to stand in power.
Man, that's pretty deep. And yeah, and every time I connect the dots, for some reason, I always find my way back to how they were raised.
Yes.
Whether or not they was brought up to be leaders for men, and for women, whether their parents even prioritize the necessary qualities to obtain and be a wife. So yeah, that is where we're dropping the ball at. So I'm gonna give you some questions.
Sure.
And you just answer with the best of your ability. There's no right or wrong to it. It's just trying to pick your brain. And I always appreciate wisdom from the OGs. You know what I'm saying? Who've been here longer than me to spread some wisdom. There's some other brothers on here that could benefit for this. But shout out to Dating and Marriage support in the chat for pulling up. So the first question is, if so many women say they want stable, long-term relationships, why do they routinely overlook the men who are most willing to offer that?
Excellent question. There are many factors that we can look at. Some of it's sociological. Some of it is unconscious pathologies. Some of it is liberal indoctrination. Some of it is the environment that they've been raised in. And some of it is generational dysfunction. I've always said, Darren, that if a person fails to plan, then they are planning to fail. And I think one of the greatest indictments with many modern women that I begin to see, I had a woman on my show by the name of Apaka one time, and she thought she had forever, Darren, to pick from the man tree. The man tree is a moniker or a euphemism that more or less talk about the assumption and the presumption that a woman has an unlimited time to get a high quality man. But that's not the case.
I serve my country, and now I carry legally everywhere I go. Here's how. National Concealed Carry Reciprocity is here, meaning that if you got yourself a valid CCW permit, every state's got to recognize it, just like a driver's license. How about that? It's about time we got some good news for us law-abiding Americans who believe in our God-given right to keep and bear arms. Now, let me tell you, getting your permit has never been simpler. All you gotta do is punch in your zip code, answer 6 little old questions, and boom, you're all set. I went through the process myself. Didn't even have to step foot in one of them fancy classrooms. Took me all of 5 minutes on my computer, and I had that permit in my mailbox the very next week. Talk about convenience. And here's the best part. When it's time to renew, there ain't no requalifying or dropping a pile of cash on some stuffy course. You can skip all that nonsense. But listen up. These anti-gun, anti-freedom liberals are having a hissy fit over this. They hate seeing good folks like you and me exercising our rights without jumping through their hoops. They're doing everything in their power to slam this online CCW loophole shut by the end of the month. So don't let them win. Go on and lock in your permit right now before the system gets swamped or they pull the rug out from under us. Trust me, you don't want to miss this window and lose out on the chance to be grandfathered in. Just click the link I'm sharing, fill out those quick questions, and you'll be on your way to carrying nationwide without any liberal busybodies breathing down your neck. You'll thank me later for sure. God bless America, and God bless our right to protect ourselves. Tap that link below now.
men's circles, the manosphere is going mainstream. Men are beginning to open their eyes. Men are beginning to see what their worth is. Men are no longer being encumbered by the things that women say or do. They're becoming indifferent because there's a term that I created there that you see many times in the car industry, but also with appliances. I call it planned obsolescence. That's just a fancy way of saying she's planning to make you obsolete because she has so many options at her disposal that she doesn't see you as being important until the clock runs out. Women practice consciously or unconsciously planned obsolescence because they don't really value the essence of a man. Men have created a space or a chasm or an environment that women can dwell in to the point they don't see men as relevant anymore. But a wise woman understands and a wise man understands that a man don't live on an island unto himself. He don't live on an island unto himself. And wise women understand that she has her own intrinsic worth and values, just like a man has his own intrinsic worth and values. But they don't see men as being valuable because so many men don't know what their power is, and they fall into that negative thought process, which is highly pathological. And also because men have low self-esteem. A lot of American men have very low self-esteem because Harriet Tubman said, Darren, if I could have freed a lot more men, well, she was talking about it in slave terms, but she said I could have freed a lot more if they did not already know that they are slaves. Many American men think they are free, but they're not free. They're still slaves to gynocratic thought, and they're still slaves there to gynocratic indoctrination. My job many times is to free men from that gynocratic thought and to break those schemas that they have. A schema is a word that we use in the clinical. It talks about a core belief that they hold or have more or less held about themselves. And so they just feel that that men are going to be around forever, that their value is higher than a man's value. But when I travel extensively, I'm there into Brazil, and when I travel also to the Dominican Republic, they don't have all the luxuries that we have in America. And so they value their men because they understand the importance of protection. But not only that, the women in that country, they compete because there's so much beauty density. Foreign women understand that the women in those countries are beautiful. And a lot of those Latin men, they don't care. They have 5, 10, 15 different women on the side, especially if they got money and resources. But many men in the West don't realize how much power that they have because they have been psychologically manipulated by this current zeitgeist that we have, or this current culture or the spirit of this age, that they are irrelevant, that they don't have any value. And I think that a lot of modern women have been conditioning them to feel that way, and therefore they end up losing out because they don't understand that intrinsically, Darren, that power never conceded to anything without a struggle.
Watch this before eating butter.
3 shocking reasons why butter belongs in your coffee.
The reason butter is called butter is because of the butyric acid. The best part of butyrate is most people don't know that the lining of your colon, the cells that line your colon, 80% of their nourishment comes from butyrate. Most of us don't make enough butyrate because we don't feed these bacteria. Anybody wondering why 30-year-old people are getting colon cancer? You have to get butyrate production in your diet. Eggs?
If you're going to get eggs, these are the kind to get the pasture-raised eggs.
Oatmeal?
This is one of the worst things you can have for breakfast. Almost all oats in the United States test positive for Roundup, glyphosate, which is a major gut disruptor. Oats are one of the best ways to fatten you up that I've ever seen.
Orange juice?
This is poison in a carton. It's pure sugar.
Avocados?
Now, an avocado, mostly pure monounsaturated fat, like olive oil, and fiber, which your gut buddies love. Human studies show that eating 1 avocado a day will help you lose weight.
Study out of China took healthy volunteers and they put them on a 14-day water fast where they got nothing but water, with one exception. One group got 100 calories per day of prebiotic fiber. The folks who got the prebiotic fiber had no hunger, even with a 14-day water fast. Why? These guys were feeding their bacteria. The bacteria, in turn, sent GLP signals to the brain saying, hey, we're full. So one of the keys for weight loss
loss is you want to feed bacteria. It's remarkable how much this works. A lot of my patients are just addicted to it. A lot of people are surprised that most of our weight loss or gain is actually controlled by the bugs that live in our gut. And we now know from both animal studies and human studies that there are lean bacteria and there are obesogenic bacteria. One of the tricks is to give lean bacteria what they want to eat.
Avocados are really one of the best foods that you can eat. They're almost pure fat and fiber. And
they never have, and they never will. And once a man realizes how much power that he's no longer encumbered by her fickle whims, her narcissistic traits that she might have. Some of them, there's some good women that are listening, so shout out to the good women. And he said, you know what, give me liberty or give me death. Because what you're seeing now, Darren, is a condition called taxation without representation and the mental oppression of the American male.
Man, you kind of deep with this stuff, man.
I appreciate it, man. Fire for your mind, man. I'm trying to break up those trauma blocks in the minds of a lot of men, because a lot of men have trauma blocks, and that's what trauma does. It impedes them. So let me tell you why I say fire for your mind. So it's twofold, or maybe it's even threefold. Fire for your mind means the illumination. It means to be illuminated and see the world for what it is. The red pill just basically means to see it for what it is. But also fire for your mind means to break the trauma blocks. We call it EMDR. That's an intervention that you can use to break those trauma blocks that a lot of men have, because sometimes trauma impedes the synapses, the neurons of the brain from firing properly. So once those blocks are broken, then you begin to see things for what it is, and now your mind is calibrated so you can move forward in a direction that's not consistent with the minimization of masculinity, a condition that we currently have in this current world called America.
Okay, then. So do you think the average man today is truly valuable?
Oh, yes, he's definitely valuable.
Or is he just invisible because he doesn't fit what most women want? Because the average man is not getting the results that he actually wants.
That's a great question. I think the average man is valuable. My dad was an average man. Many men are average. Guys, let me ask you a question. Is the show, I don't know why this thing is going a little slow. Is the show slowing you guys in? I got to figure out what's going on. But for some reason, it's sort of slow. I got to figure out what's going on. If it's slow, guys, hit 1. We're gonna get back into it. I just need to figure out if the show is slow or not. But let me go back. I don't know where that lag is coming from. Hold tight. Men. But see, here's the problem, Darren. The advent of social media made average women think they were better than average men. Let me share something with you. My mom passed away 2 months ago. It's been very devastating. I've been through a lot of trauma these last couple of weeks. Had a head-on collision 2 weeks before my mom passed. Some other family issues going on that I'm not going to talk about. But let me tell you what a man got, Darren, back in the day when I grew up. My grandmother was a virgin when she got married. She got with an average man that was a farmer. My dad got a virgin. Men of yesterday got women that were virgins, wife ready, had no kids. The average man now, what he gets is a woman that has multiple kids, highly promiscuous, minimizes the importance of a man, thinks her value is greater than the man's value, but she's a subpar woman. But not only a subpar woman, she has a lot of baggage. And so many men are what I call unconscious simps. That's a pathology that should be in the DSM-5. An unconscious simp, Darren, simply means he supplements irrational male patterns of behavior. That's an unconscious simp.
These elastic cargo pants will make you look 10 years younger and slimmer. My dad used to wear jeans all day.
He's unconscious about it because he's been indoctrinated to think that if he placates to the emotional whims of a woman, that he's actually doing her a favor. But see, males do things based on the feelings of a woman because it's irrational. But men do things based on principle. If a man's been taught succinctly how to do things on principle, then he would more or less raise the bar, raise the standard, and demand more. Masculine fathers say, if she's not willing to respect you and honor you and follow your leadership, and the dirty word that a lot of modern women don't like now, obey, because that was just a standard, but women now think obey means a slave, which is a cognitive distortion, by the way. She's not worthy to be your wife. A masculine man does not have time to be encumbered by the feelings of a woman. It doesn't mean that he don't love his wife. It doesn't mean that he does not listen to his wife, but he should not be solely so enmeshed into the feelings of his wife that he loses out on the condition or term that I created called male sovereignty. Male sovereignty is predicated on the ability to live your life out on your own terms and to live your life out into perpetuity. It doesn't mean that you don't respect your wife. It doesn't mean that you don't sometimes say, baby, I like your decision. We're gonna flow with that. But male sovereignty means this is my domain, not just a man cave, but this is my domain. I'm going to expand my borders throughout the confines of my home, and I expect everybody to be on the same page. One of the greatest misnomers is this, Darren. The greatest misnomer is that the woman is the first teacher, but that's a misnomer. The woman is the first teacher after she's been taught by the man, but she's not the first teacher by default. Everything should trickle downhill if the man is actually being the CEO in this family. One of the nefarious terms that I don't really like now that you hear, Darren, in many circles is the word partner. I don't believe that a woman is a man's partner. I know people use that term interchangeably. There are some women and men that use the word partner and they're genuine. They don't mean anything by it. But many use the word partner because they want to share power in the relationship. That's called an egalitarian relationship, which comes out of what's called Marxist ideology. And so a partnership basically says that we both can lead in the relationship. But a husband-wife dynamic says that I'm the leader as the husband. I will take your insight, but you should always defer to me as your husband, because if anything happens in the family, I'm going to take the responsibility for it anyway. The greatest honor that you can give a woman is to put your life on the line for her. But many men now give their power away for free because they have low self-esteem. They don't have the proper mentorship, and the communities have become so eroded that many men don't stand on power. I've told men before in the past, and I'll say it again, they have more power than they realize. The power that the greatest power that a man can have is the power of indifference and the power to walk away. But many times we equivocate the average man with the men that cause them the most pain. That's a cognitive distortion called overgeneralization. But many times that's tied into another condition called paranoid persecution, or a term that I created called a schema affliction. A schema is based on a core belief that's not real, but that schema is based on a core belief that's many times tied to fear and pain. So the paranoid persecution of many women is based on some kind of irrational thought process, and therefore, every man that they see, they assail those men as being the arbiters of the pain that they've been through.
Okay, so how do you interpret the rising number of women in their 30s? These are women at 30 plus or 30 and over. How do you interpret this rising number who want marriage but still seem confused about how to get there?
Well, listen, in my opinion, the sexual revolution did a lot of damage to the modern woman.
They're gonna get you for this.
Well, I mean, that's my opinion. I'm not gonna bite my tongue. That's what I believe. I stand on this, and I say it over again, that at one point, Darren, I believe the Black women were the greatest women ever. I don't believe there was no woman that was comparable to the American Black woman, the Catherines of the world. We went from calling women Catherine to Keisha. Catherine was an upright woman. She was a modest woman. She was astute. She respected herself. She wasn't sleeping with a bunch of men. She was a very respectful woman. You got to understand, I grew up from the old school. I'm Gen X, class of 1990, so I'm from the old school. And I remember a time when Black women were better. They weren't perfect in the 90s, but they were a lot better now. But one of the biggest indictments to why women in their 30s can't get a man, I'm going to drop some fire for your mind. Let me know when you're ready, Darren. I'm about to drop some fire for your mind. It's called, if I had to write a book, Darren, I might even write this book. It's called Black Love Without Consent. And Black love without consent simply means that we have forgotten to ask Black men what they want. They assume what a man wants, but they never had the conversation that was cerebral and beneficial to helping men, or more or less asking men what they want. In other countries, women ask the men what they want. In other countries, the feminine is being and the masculine is doing. They ask men what they want. But in America, they tell men what they want, and therefore they're surprised when men don't acquiesce to the highest honor that a man can give a woman is his last name in marriage.
Okay, then. Breaking it down. Shout out to Redpill for the super chat, $5. Keep up the great work. Salute to the kosher clinician. Sorry about that.
No, you're fine, bro.
So, and we talk about average young man. Is the average young man more disposable now than ever before? Or are we just more aware of how harsh the market really is?
Good question. He's like I say, he's not disposable. He never was disposable because that same average young man, if he's in another country, he's a king. Do you see my point? He's disposable in America because, and you're gonna laugh at this, I call it 304 inflation, because a lot of modern women are raising the bar for what they want, but the world has forgotten to ask the man what he wants. Most women, Darren, when I was going to high school back in 90 and beyond, if you had children, if you were highly sexual, you were a pariah in the community. We didn't even look at you. You were basically a nobody. And black men, I remember, even though there were some simps back in the 90s, they tended to have higher standards. The men would simp and sing love songs, but the women were better. A woman didn't count it robbery to cook a man a meal that she was trying to holler at him back in the day. And a man didn't count it robbery to take his woman out on a date. And most men back in the day would court women. But now with the advent of social media, with the advent of 304 inflation, subpar women still think they're better than average men. And because of that, men are beginning to realize what their worth is and how much power they got. Because once again, how can an average man go to another country and he's venerated as a great man, where in America he's invisible? Most men in America are invisible. They're invisible. And many suffer in silence. According to some research and data, they said that about 33% of men, I think white and black, are still virgins. So what does that tell you? It's that women are seeking the apex men, the top tier men, the height, looks, money, and status. Like I'm 6'5", 6'6", have 3 degrees, credit score is solid, over 750 credit score. And if I was a single man on the market, I can have my choices pick of women. But I wouldn't take the average American woman serious. Not for a wife, I wouldn't, because I'm not going to be in the home debating with a woman. I'm just not going to. I'm a traditional old school dude. I still cut grass, even though I'm a white collar professional. I still change the oil. I still do things by the old way, but I have demands, expectations, and standards. And either you can be part of that, or you don't have to be part of it. I'll just take my talents elsewhere and be treated like the great man that I am. And the problem with a lot of American black men, they have low self-esteem and they don't know how much worth that they really have. And so that's my spin on that.
Okay, then. Spoken like a champ. When men say just being myself doesn't work, is that a self-esteem issue or a result of women ignoring anything outside of the top percentile? And when I talk about the top percentile, I'm talking about the guys that are most sought after in the dating market.
Reiterate that again. Let me look at the question. Can you reiterate that down from?
So you got guys that are saying that, and I've had this happen a lot in consultations. The guys say, "I'm just being myself." Everybody I've always talked to always said, "Just be you, be yourself," and they felt like that doesn't work. And what I'm asking you, is that a self-esteem issue, or is that just a result of the women in the dating market ignoring it?
It could be a combination of both. It could be that, but the problem is that once again, there was a time that average men got with average women, and those average women were grateful for average men. Now, average to subpar women want the top tier men because they confuse attention and validation through social media. They confuse having intimacy with the man with meaning that she had status and value. But most men, and I know a lot of guys, can be intimate with a woman, but they don't take it serious for a relationship. She's just something to play with, And so the average man, because he's invisible, many times he self-loathes, and sometimes he minimizes his self-esteem or minimizes his worth. Now, of course, that man can level up for the sake of attracting a certain type of woman. That's plausible. But I've always argued, Darren, what is he leveling up for? Because I heard you say on one of your shows, when you got your wife, you got a quality woman. I think you said you got it in college, I believe.
Yeah, I got lucky. I found my woman young.
Yeah, you found her young, right? But what is a man finding now? One of the biggest indictments in the Black community is that many have not taught their daughters to go to school to look for a husband. I talked with my daughter recently. She's in school, and she's an upcoming junior. And I said, listen, it's not wrong with having career expectations. I'm not against that. But also you should be looking for a husband at the same time, because with inflation, the rise of AI, and uncertainty in the world, you want to have a masculine man under you to guide you, and y'all can work together better. It's easier paying the bills with two people versus one. But I don't think that there's anything negative about men. You got to understand how men have been socialized there for the last couple of years. Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu wrote a book called The Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys. Black boys and Black men, especially, and boys have been through what I call a psychological comatose, when they have more or less been minimized. They've seen it from infancy to elementary school, to middle school, and even high school. There was a time when I was in school, you had male principals, and I'm not against a woman being a principal per se, but you had a greater number of male principals and male teachers. But now boys have been psychologically indoctrinated to see everything through the lens of a woman. And so the clinical term for that is called introjection. Introjection happens a lot of times when the boy tends to identify with his mother. That introjection turns to internalization. He internalizes her value systems. That internalization leads to identification. That identification leads to projection, because now he's never seen anything outside of the indoctrination of how he thinks a woman should more or less present or more or less circumnavigate his masculine journey. So he's in a masculine comatose, and he can't get out of that maze until he get the proper help. I see so many men in couples therapy, Darren, that they know what I'm saying is true, but they struggle with an ego defense mechanism where they try to rationalize behavior. They pay bills, they do all of that, but they're in sexist marriages. The women sometimes don't honor them. They don't respect them. And I said, you keep creating the monster that you're complaining about. And so I see it all the time.
Damn. I'm gonna have to read that book. I'm glad somebody put it in the chat. I'm gonna go back and check it out.
What book is that?
The book you said about the what's it, Kunjufu?
Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu, The Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys.
Yeah. How does a man learn seduction if he's not naturally attractive? He didn't win the genetic lottery, you know what I'm saying? He doesn't have it. And can that skill be respected or just seen as manipulative?
Man, that's a hard one.
That's a hard one, ain't it?
Yeah, that's a hard one. Can he learn seduction? Yeah, he can learn seduction. But I will argue that seduction. So when you got a generation of boys now, Darren, indifferent to you, like when you and I were younger, like I don't know how young you are, but I'll be 54 this year. And social media has led to a lot of social awkwardness with boys and girls. It's not just a man thing, it's a boy and girl thing. And so, you got to be careful trying to seduce a woman now because of Me Too allegations, because of false allegations, and so many other things. Can you try to seduce? Yeah, but back in the day, we would cold approach women. But you can't do that now in this culture. So in the other cultures, men don't have to seduce women. They just can be who they are, and they still get the same results that they would never get here in America, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so you think that's the reason why a lot of these guys are tapping out and dating? Because they might come off as creepy, they risk getting canceled or they call it misogynistic. So that make them retreat from dating entirely?
I think that plays a large role. Remember, a large percentage of men are invisible, but there's a percentage of men and women that are socially awkward due to electronics, due to socialization, and due to the lack of male mentorship, but also the lack of having other men in their lives that can help circumnavigate them through the maze called life. The world is not like it used to be years ago. You can catcall or try to seduce women back in the past, but you know, and I know that when it comes down to the typical average modern woman, she has different standards for the male archetype that she likes. If you're 6'5", good looking, built, money and status, she doesn't have the same rigorous standards for that man as she does with the average guy. So what is the man trying to seduce? If he is trying to seduce the woman, does that man know what his values are? And one of the biggest problems that I see, Darren, is that most men don't know what their values are. And not only do they not know what their values are, they have not created boundaries around those values once they bring them out into fruition. Once a man understands what his values are, once he understands what his standards and boundaries are, then he starts to create a reality outside what the woman thinks his values and standards and boundaries should be. So back to the point about the art of seduction, what is he seducing? And then is it dangerous to try to seduce a woman in this current culture if he is not the archetype that she so desires or so demands?
Yeah, you're right. And I would say he's probably trying to, just attract so he can, shoot a shot and get the outcome he wants. And that outcome could be a relationship or it could be a short-term satisfaction. But I do understand that it does matter what archetype it is. And that's kind of, I guess it makes sense. And I guess that's women's way of weeding off men that they do not want to waste their time with or entertain. So they create this fear that, hey, look, if you approach me or if you say anything, you might risk a sexual harassment offense or whatever. But whenever you have so I guess it's important for the man to study the market and understand those markers that allows you to bypass that. Because like you said, if you're 6'5", you're athletic, you're lean, you got six pack and you got the charm and charisma, no, you don't get hit with the unsafe work environment, stuff like that. Like the guy who's not, he's out of shape and he's not working on his image much. He's more, you get hit more often. But that's a double standard. But I can't lie, I understand it.
Right. And I think we should teach boys not to necessarily seek all of their masculine validation through a woman. There's nothing wrong with wanting to have a woman in your life, but a woman is not the end all be all to a man's life. A man's purpose should be number one. His woman should come to complement his purpose, but he should not live his life through the validation of a woman, because the feelings of a woman is very fickle, or what we call mercurial, meaning it wanes and waxes. And so when you're more or less fortified in your purpose and what God has called you to do, and you're more or less being surrounded around a cadre of masculine men, then you don't care what that woman do. You can keep your head down to the grindstone, you can keep grinding. And the new phenomenon that's helped save a lot of men that is on their purpose is the passport bro movement. Now listen, I know and understand that if you're a broken man in America, you'll be a broken man abroad. Women universally are the same. Foreign women are not necessarily better by default, but they are better by social conditioning. And they tend to adhere, Darren, to the mores and values of traditional male archetypes. And because of that, men are better suitable for those women. Now, the advent of liberalism is beginning to creep into those countries as well. But men have to do the work by doing consultations with you or doing them with me. But the sad truth is, some men want free sessions, they want free consultations, and then they don't want to do the work. And like you and I said before in the past, they tend to have a lot of underlying issues that one consultation is not going to be able to ameliorate. They need the proper coaching, they need the proper guidance to help them circumnavigate this maze called life. The benefit that men have now that you and I didn't have, they didn't have, male therapists. And I would even argue now, Darren, it's hard to find a traditional masculine male therapist. When I was at UNC Chapel Hill, my associate dean told me, and it was somewhat baffling. She said, "We need you bad." And so, like, what you mean by that? And she said this back in 2011, 2012. She said, because a lot of the therapists, male therapists that we have are very effeminate. I didn't say it, she said it. And so she said, you're like a black unicorn. She said, you can write your own gold standard because it's not a lot of you. And so a lot of my clients are men, and a lot of my clients are males. And a lot of times I help them to work through some of the negative pathologies that they have begun to internalize about themselves and how they see themselves in relationships. The more a man realizes how much power he has, the more indifferent he becomes, then he begins to gain power. Women by nature, like love, they only respect power and strength at the very base primordial level. She only respects power and strength at the very base or the primordial level. We can tie that into what some call evolutionary psychology. And I look at that from a limited perspective. But that's why women are genetically programmed to look up to taller men. It's just something they're hardwired that make them want a taller man, because that man symbolizes power. Now, of course, there are other things that a woman look for in a man as well. And it doesn't mean that a shorter man cannot command respect, because there are some short brothers that command respect. They got swag, they're charismatic, and they're very masculine. Some women don't care about a man's height. But height does play a role, just like some men don't care about a woman's backside or her curves. They care more about the femininity. But many times they can be interchangeably based on nature and nurture, if that makes sense.
Absolutely makes sense, man. And this might make me go back to college, man, and try to come on the psychology side, get me a PhD and come back to the field. Right. Shout out to Lou Casely, 20. $10. Kosher is right. The horrible concept is hitting more traditional countries on steroids. Mm-hmm. Passport men, do not bring your brides to the West. They get immediately corrupted. Yeah, that is crazy. So it's a landscape issue.
It's a landscape. The land has been tainted and polluted. And, it's not some of it is the women's fault, but it's not always their fault. And the reason why I said some of it is the women's fault, because they were indoctrinated, but also they were taught bad information by sometimes their mothers and their fathers. Years ago, women were taught to focus on your education. Sometimes the fathers taught them that, and sometimes the mothers. But at the same time, Darren, women automatically autocorrect many times for Caucasian men and men of non-color. There's a visceral level of hatred that's been internalized by, I believe, some black women, some. And some of that hate is due to pain, brokenness, but also it is due to arrogance, entitlement. Because when they interact with the white men, they don't act that way. Their voice changes, their cadence is different, and they're a lot nicer and feminine. And the reason why they are, because they see that white man as power, even though he can be a very basic guy. I'll give you an example. I had a classmate of mine. She went to school, went to law school, and she got with a very basic white guy, very basic. But she would never give a typical average black brother a chance. And so when that typical average black brother that she didn't respect decides to go where he's celebrated versus tolerated, then all of a sudden it's a problem. And so there needs to be a de-evolution, Darren, until there can be an evolution. And it's beginning to happen slowly but surely. The advent of AI, the conversations that you and I are having, men are beginning to check out, they're beginning to become indifferent, and they're beginning to focus on themselves. Some don't like it, but blame it on liberal policies, blame it on incessant narcissistic traits, and blame it on constantly devaluating average to decent men. Blame it on that.
So, okay, well, if we're telling men just to improve, be respectful, show up, and play the long game, but the results are still rejection, and we're talking about right here in America, what's left for them to do if they still keep getting rejected?
Well, listen, Darren, is and I'm gonna drop some fire for your mind. It's not necessarily, Darren, a sociological issue, but it's a spiritual issue. It's a spiritual issue that goes all the way back to the garden, where Eve traded her innocence for power. She traded her innocence for power, and modern women now have traded their innocence for power, the covering and the protection of a man, the value of their bodies. They traded that innocence for power because they always saw the man as being greater or stronger than them. I call it penis envy. And so I hear people talking about leveling up, but I always say level up for what? If you're a traditional man, you got standards and values. Do you think the average man can find a woman that's been with less than 5 men? No. Do you think the average man can find a woman that doesn't have kids by other men? No. Do you think the average man can find the average woman that hasn't had many deletions? No. So what is he leveling up for? That goes back to my point of reference of black love without consent. In the power dynamic, the man benefits and the woman benefits. It's what I call relationship symmetry, where they both benefit. In America, she benefits, but he doesn't benefit, because the world forgot to ask men what do they want in relationships. And when men proclaim what they want, many times it's minimized, or it's more or less reduced, or it's mocked, or it's more or less falling on deaf ears. I call it cognitive dissonance. And that cognitive dissonance it comes from sign language. And I created my own acronym called DEAF. And DEAF basically means this: she denies the evidence. She becomes enraged when you present her with the evidence. She argued to ad hominem attacks, meaning where she attacks the messenger instead of the message. And she will fight you verbally or physically, or she will flee because she cannot hear what's going on inside of her head due to emotional immaturity or that cacophony called truth. The cacophony is like a loud, clanging sound, and she can't hear it because it's the truth. And she'll never come into the fullness of her womanhood until she hears the truth. And it's not all her fault. Part of it's men being simps. These men lying to them, preachers lying to them, men lying to them in social media, calling them queens and baby and all this silly stuff. And they think that, just because a man is showing you attention in your DMs, that man see you as valuable. And many times that man doesn't see you as valuable. Having multiple men in your DM does not mean you have marriage options. It just means you have penis options. And they don't understand the difference between the two.
So it sounds like you've been doing a great deal of research and understanding this dilemma between men and women when it comes to relationship. And it's worldwide. And I have myself too, not on the, I wouldn't say on the abroad side as much. I've been focused on this, on the Western side.
Right.
How do you feel about when women see your content or any content of the like, and all they can say, instead of understanding it, all they say is, we're trying to tear women down?
Well, that's emotional immaturity. That's due to emotional immaturity. She's not listening to understand. She's just listening to respond. And I'm gonna use a biblical reference. Darren. The great there was a teacher or a Pharisee by the name of Nicodemus, and Nicodemus asked the great teacher Jesus, the master teacher. He said, "What must I do to enter the kingdom of heaven?" And Jesus told Nicodemus, "You must be born again." The problem with the modern woman there is she does not want to be born again. She doesn't want to be born again because she's still looking back. And theology said that if a man look back, he's not fit for the kingdom of God, but she's not fit for the kingdom of man because she's still looking back to the traumas of her past. She's still looking back to the things she thought that she was, and she's still looking back to an illusion that no longer exists. And that's tied to what's called a delusional mindset. We call it in the clinical egocentric, meaning she thinks that her delusion is real. And so when you try to bring it to the newness of life, instead of auto-correcting, more or less enhancing her vibration, more or less stepping up and becoming the woman that a man expects her to become, she will lambast that man by calling him, like she called the young man, Jeffrey St. James, and I've been called fake therapists and all of that, because they're not used to therapists that are masculine and come from a traditional heteronormative worldview. They're not used to it because most women and a lot of people are trained through the woke lens of therapy. They're trained through woke therapy. They're not trained through objective, traditional heteronormative therapy. And that's why I said it is a spiritual issue. It's we can keep talking about this and that, but it's a spiritual issue. You cannot take new wine and put it into old wineskin. You got to change the wineskin first before you can put the new wine in it. It's more or less a spiritual issue, and it's tied into what I call, occultic feminism and also witchcraft. Stubbornness is as idolatry, and rebellion is the sin of witchcraft. And it's rebellion and idolatry. They want power. They want power and they want complete subjugation of that man.
That's deep. And what's that? Antonine? $10. True about the disparity in all of this. In the Navy, I attempted to court melanin-rich women, yet mainly Asians showed me love and respect.
Right.
So much has changed, as Kosher says, average lady seeking top guy.
Right.
Appreciate the $10. Appreciate the support. I got a quick sponsor for the video I want to pay homage to, or
you can sell this $5 spatula on Amazon and compete with hundreds of other spatula sellers, or you can sell digital products on Amazon and compete with almost no one. You see, I use a brand new Amazon platform that's banned the sale of physical products. Yet without me buying or shipping inventory or storing anything, Amazon's still paying me over $40K a month. You see, everything I sell is 100% digital, so the products live on my computer or laptop. So you can get started with very little money, and most everything is done for you, so you don't need any tech skills. You just sit back and you watch the income cover your bills month after month. Hey, my name is Roy Lewis, and Amazon is the biggest company there is, so you don't need to go find customers. Amazon's found them for you. Over 190 million. They've created a massive $30 billion market that you can tap into like Steven did. He was a typical 9-to-5er who was sick and tired of showing up to work every day, and he shocked his coworkers when he finally told them, "I quit." And Steven's not alone. My business partner Carla and I have coached all of these 18 students past the $1 million mark. And if you follow our unique income system, you might be next. That's why I'm holding a workshop that unveils a brand new Amazon platform and details a proven step-by-step path to living life however you choose. You can watch this workshop now by clicking this link. Because let's get real for a second. If your job ain't giving you time to pursue your passions and spend time with friends and family, man, do I know how that feels. I worked for the government for 5 years, but it felt like 50. It was a cog in a huge soulless machine. I was living for the weekend, and that was no way to live. Now, thanks to this new Amazon platform, I'm free to follow my passions 7 days a week. I do what I want, when I want, and now it's your turn. However you'd rather spend your time, let me show you how to make this happen. Because this new Amazon platform is growing so big and so fast, I can show you my secrets and it won't mess with my income even a little bit. So if you click on this ad now, I'll give you a walkthrough of everything I'm doing and you can decide for yourself if it's a fit. So you can get in on this brand new ground floor platform while it's still a secret. People we're teaching this to are absolutely crushing it, even though most of them have no tech skills whatsoever. So before you commit to any other type of business that's going to take a lot more money and a lot more work, find out why this is the fastest path possible to making a legit hands.
And by the way, man, I'm soaking all this up, and I know the chat is, put a 1 in the chat if y'all soaking up this good advice, get this good wisdom. Yeah, man, this is what's I would say is what's needed in this space, because I think we undersaturated with experts, and we have a lot of people just coming in and they just giving it 2 cents. Not really. We don't really have a lot of experts in particular fields coming in. So we really appreciate brothers like yourself. Let me throw this up here real quick.
Well, you know, a lot of folks there, they just don't want the truth. That's why I say a lot of this is spiritual. As a therapist there, we don't look at the man as one part. We look at the man as one whole. Human beings are integrated beings. I call them a man and woman is not a dichotomy. A man and a woman is a trichotomy. They're soul, body, and spirit. So when we look at human beings, one part can impact the whole. But also we look at the essence of a human being as a therapist through what's called the bio, psycho, social, spiritual lens. Bio, which is the biology can impact the person. Bio, psyche, which is the mind. Social is the environment, but also spiritual. There are spiritual phenomena that's been more or less transfixed to a lot of human beings, especially men. And that's why I say it's more of a spiritual issue, because we've been having the same conversation since the 90s. A lot of folks think we can just talk and dialogue, but you can't. It's a spiritual issue. There are some sociological factors behind it, but it's more spiritual than anything. A lot of it is tied to a spirit of rebellion, what theologians call the spirit of the Antichrist. It's a spirit that's strong. It's permeated even stronger now, and it's going to get worse. It's not going to change. We're not going back to yesterday. One of the reasons why I cried so much when my mom passed is because I was mourning for yesterday. I was mourning, Darren, for nostalgia. But them days are gone. It's not coming back. We're beginning to enter a new dimension. Some call it the age of Aquarius, or what we call the current zeitgeist. And it's not. We're not going back. All these conversations, you just want to talk for the sake of making content, fine. But we're not going back. There's going to take a total de-evolution in order for us to evolve into something totally different. And it's not going to happen in our lifetime. I don't see it, because it's been proliferating for the last 50 years, and it's gotten worse.
My condolences goes out to your mom, to you, right. You losing your mother. May she rest in peace.
Right.
May God be with us all. Let me see, is this thing ready? Quick for today's sponsor. What if your rental income showed up every month guaranteed without sacrificing your time or your freedom? With the right system, passive income isn't a dream, it's a decision. The Freedom Flow 24/7 Section 8 Master Course gives you a proven step-by-step roadmap to secure government-backed rental income and automate your entire operation for true hands-off cash flow. You'll learn how to choose the right markets, lock in Section 8 tenants, navigate inspections and approvals, and set up systems that run even when you don't. If you're interested in more information, the links are in the description.
How people in the 1930s lost weight.
The reason butter is called butter is because of the butyric acid. The best part of butyrate is most people don't know that the lining of your colon, the cells that line your colon, 80% of their nourishment comes from butyrate. Most of us don't make enough butyrate because we don't feed these bacteria. Anybody wondering why 30-year-old people are getting colon cancer? You have to get butyrate production in your diet.
Eggs? If you're going to get eggs, these are the kind to get, the pasture-raised eggs. Oatmeal? This is one of the worst things you can have for breakfast. Almost all oats in the United States test positive for Roundup, glyphosate, which is a major gut disruptor. Oats are one of the best ways to fatten you up that I've ever seen. Orange juice? This is poison in a carton. It's pure sugar. Avocados? Now, an avocado is mostly pure monounsaturated fat, like olive oil, and fiber, which are.
Yep, so shout out to my man Willie Beeman. He has this company he just started where he's coaching people through obtaining these properties and making it, killing it financially. So the link is in the description, y'all, if y'all want more on that. If y'all want passive income, money that comes while you're sleeping. So I got a few more questions for you.
Right.
Actually, I got about maybe 5 or 6 more questions.
Oh yeah, take your time, man. I got time. I got time.
All right, so
I'm enjoying it.
So yeah, do you believe women's empowerment has unintentionally created a smaller pool of desirable men, or just push average men out of visibility?
Oh, no doubt. I did a show there when I first started on YouTube, and I call it "She's Been Empowered to Be Depowered." And the problem was, Darren, I've always said succinctly that this so-called patriarchy that many assume that men created, especially black men, never existed. If you want to talk about policy, let's talk about policy at the macro level. Legislation starts at the macro level. As a therapist, we look at things through the macro, the meso, which is the group, and also at the micro. Now, one could argue, Darren, that in parts, there was some type of quasi patriarchy, but there was never been a true patriarchy where black men and white men conspired together to create policies to oppress black women, because black men never had power. Black men and black women were mules of the same cause. When we were together, we were better. Black men were putting their lives on the line, sending their wives to school. Many times they would more or less defray their education for the sake of sending the woman to school, because most black women in the South were teachers. Like where I'm at, North Carolina has some of the highest numbers of historically black colleges in the state, in the country. You got the Elizabeth City states, the Charlotte. In the United States, to have the level of HBCUs like North Carolina. So black men historically were sending their women to school. They were defraying their own freedom for the sake of educating her. But because of that, the spirit of arrogance began to permeate and precipitate. And many times there's a false equivocation there when women assume and assert that, I call it social market value versus sexual market value. She tends to assume that her social market value, Darren, because she has a doctorate, you know, they say my doctorate, my master's, and my bachelor's, you know how they say it with emphasis, you know, my doctorate. She tends to assume that her doctorate, her master's, and her bachelor's make her better than a man, but she has a false equivocation because men don't, in general, care about that. That doctorate, master's, and bachelor's, that benefits you. But the thing that most men care about is her true sexual market value, which is she chaste? Does she have kids by other men? Does she have multiple deletions? Is she cooperative? Does she have emotional intelligence? But also, does she have emotional regulation? You would be surprised, Darren, the amount of women that I've seen in therapy, in couples therapy, that lack emotional regulation. I had a couple that reached out to me recently. You know, I was trying to get in contact with them to set up the future sessions, but I haven't heard back yet. And the woman told her that she decided to not go back to women therapists because they always made the man the problem. When I was in Punta Cana, Dominican Republic, I took the first phase of what's called the Gottman method for couples. And it was in Punta Cana, Dominican Republic. The instructor, while he was giving the instructions, were trying to more or less minimize men. And I asked them during recess, I said, well, I notice you keep creating scenarios where men are the problem or men are ignorant. And so this whole minimizing of masculine men or men in general is spiritual. It's part of the spirit of the Antichrist, which means to usurp the order that God has more or less created. And that's why I say a lot of times this stuff that we talk about, it can't be fixed through sociological means. As therapists, we're trained, Darren, to see things through what's called the material world, or what we call empiricism. But however, Darren, there's a phenomenon called the phenomenological argument that supersedes materialism and empiricism. That phenomenological argument many times is tied into the spirit realm. Men like Dr. Edgar Casey, I can't think of the other guy, the guy that talked about shallow work, I can't think of his name, Carl Jung. They look at things, a phenomena outside of necessarily science and also the sociological or the psychological. They look at things through alternate dimensions called the spirit realm. So a lot of this stuff that you see now is a byproduct of the spirit realm. It's not going to get better in this lifetime. It's not. You can go ahead, you can write it down that the kosher clinician said at 7/28, 2025, 8:58, that it's not going to get better. I promise you in the next 5 to 10 years, it will not get better. It's going to get worse because people don't love the truth. They don't want to hear it. That's why my channel is not big. If I would compromise and tell people what they want to hear and tap dance and bojangle, I probably would be big. I could lie. I could lie, manipulate women, and tell them what they want to hear in men as well. But people don't want to hear objective truth. It's really hard to sell, clinical concepts through urban topics. It's hard to do because you're constantly juxtaposing. Okay, how do I, say this and say that, and try to get them to understand? It takes a lot of mental energy to do it. And so to the point that sometimes I say, you know what, am I wasting time, doing manhood content, because I'm putting my name out there, I'm putting my livelihood out there, and I'm saying, really, for what? For what if I understand what the end's going to be long term? But I do it because I don't like to see men suffer, but sadly, men don't really invest like they should, in my opinion, in male content the way they invest in female content, in my opinion.
Yeah, I have that same opinion, man. It's really hard. And when you see that you have 95% male audience and you actually try to advocate or even try to promote or try to push some type of improvement, I would say a lot of them won't really subscribe, like, or even promote your content. I don't know why it is.
More boxes, more options. Grainger has over 1,700 box types in stock and ready to help you pack, store, and ship everything. And you can count on Grainger to deliver your boxes fast. Count on Grainger for boxes. Call or click Grainger.com/boxes today.
But that's just something that I just really haven't taken the energy to figure out yet. Because everybody reserves the right to who they want to subscribe to and support. Right. So you really, there's really nothing you can do about that. But I know you mentioned about the passport bros.
Right.
So we're seeing more men fly overseas. And they claim they found peace. They claim they found femininity. And they actually saying these women are cooperative.
Yes.
Do you view that as a smart move or emotional escapism?
Excellent question. Well, let's look at through the lens of Dr. Wim Glasser that I always reference many times. Dr. Wim Glasser, he was a psychoanalyst, and he looked at things through the psychoanalytic lens. And Dr. Glasser talked about something called choice theory, and choice theory is predicated in reality therapy. Dr. Glasser said that needs drive behaviors. I'm going to say it again. Needs drive behaviors. For so long, men weren't getting their needs met. And so Dr. Glasser postulated, Mr. McPherson, that there were 5 elemental principles that men looked at in order to get their needs met. He said it was power, fun, freedom, belonging, and survival. And actually not men, but mostly children. And there are limitations to reality therapy and choice theory, but it can be very salient because, see, choice theory does not look at unconscious pathologies or unconscious issues. It just looks at living in the now. So choice theory says you can continue to look at the past, or you can see things for what it is, which is red pill. That's why it's really red pill, because red pill really comes from what's called existentialism. Existentialism means I'm going through a crisis. There's a such thing called existentialist therapy. But I'm going through a crisis, so I choose to see things for what it is because I'm going through that said crisis. So Dr. Glasser said power, fun, freedom, belonging, and survival. Now let's ask the question, and let's look at the preponderance of evidence. Does the typical American man have power in the West, yes or no?
Does the typical
average man have power in the home, power in the from jurisprudence or the judicial system, but also power outside in the corporate world or many boardrooms, yes or no?
Oh, you cut out a bit, but I think I understand what you were saying. I would just say no.
He doesn't have power. Do you think the average man has fun in marriage or fun in dating?
No.
Do you think the average man has financial freedom?
No.
Financial freedom, relationship freedom, or freedom to express his needs without being shamed into silence?
No.
Do you think the average man has belonging in America, where he's shown love, he's shown adulation, he's shown respect?
No.
And do you think the average man is surviving in a world and a system that a woman can take half of a man's assets if she says, I no longer love that man, or I like you, but I don't love you, therefore I'm going to end this relationship?
Yeah, I see that happen a lot.
Do you see where I'm going at? So he's not getting his needs met. Many American men are going through a term there that I created called affection deprivation. He's suffering from affection deprivation. And so because he's not getting that affection that he's looking for, he's looking for something to complement that. Men are at their best when they have a cheerleader to cheer them on. Human beings weren't made to be by themselves. Teddy Pendergrass Darren said back in the day, he said, all I want is peace of mind. He said, it's so hard to find. That's what Teddy said. Theology say that a quarrelsome and contentious woman will run a man to the rooftop. You know how many men I see in couples therapy that are not at peace? They don't get intimacy from their wives. The women trick them into relationships, and now she makes it all about her feelings. And I will argue, Darren, if a woman is not taking care of her man through intimacy, then that's a form of psychological abuse. So men are saying, you know what, I'm checking out. And really, it's the right thing to do. They're not doing it because they want to do it, but they're doing it to a response to the lack of pain, or due to pain, or due to the lack of getting their needs fulfilled. We have been conditioned since being little boys to always fulfill her needs and her wants. Women are sugar and spice and everything nice. But what are little boys made of? Puppy dog tails and snails. That's what little boys are made of. So boys and men have been conditioned to see themselves as less than, which in essence is paradoxical to how women really think. Women respect power and strength. And I even had to do it with my own wife at one point. I told her, listen, you can always go, because I see myself as a 5-star dude. I know what my worth is. If I was a single man in the game again, I can get top tier women. What somebody else might call ugly, I know what my worth is. So I'm not gonna argue with you. I'll cast you to the wind, and I will show you what I can do.
Hey, I heard that.
That's hot fire. That's hot fire, man.
That's the hot fire.
This is the quickest way to clear out stuck poop.
The #1 food for regular BMs, huh? Okay, let's see.
Fastest way to clear out stuck poop is by adding more fiber to your diet.
Not quite, unless you want to make things worse, of course.
As far as the best foods for doing that, I've been experimenting with prunes, kiwis, and refried beans.
Oh, bless her, but this is going sideways fast.
Fibrous foods are great because fiber helps you poop.
Okay, I got to jump in here. Fiber. Look, it's great when you're not already constipated, but when you're backed up, it's just like, yikes. Because here's the thing, fiber adds bulk and weight to stool, and 1 + 1 = 2, just like adding even more mass to the poop that's already blocking your body's only exit equals more cramps, more bloating, and more constipation. That's just basic math. And it's 100% not going to get things moving again.
What about laxatives?
Sure. Laxatives might liquefy any of the new poop, allowing it to squeeze through your increasingly blocked exit. Meanwhile, the old stuck poop.
That's the hot fire, man.
So, and I know we talk about the typical man in America, but let's just, if a man hasn't built anything of value, like here in America, if he hasn't built anything, no money, no ambition, no presence, is importing a wife a win or just a deflection from hard work?
When we say have he built anything, I would question you and say, have she nurtured the things she expects to build?
You're talking about the women, right?
I'm talking about the women. Darren, you can't go generations after generation saying black girl magic and black girl rock without empowering the boys. You got to empower the men. Relationship symmetry works both ways. You got to empower the boys at the same level that you're empowering the girls. But when you told boys that they were worthless and that they were put on this planet to be worker bees to serve the queen bee, then how can he build when he hasn't been properly nurtured? Why is it men in other countries are better and better producers? And they're better producers because they've been properly nurtured. But see, the false equivocation is, Darren, that many women tend to assume that all men are like the 20% that either hurt them, used them, abused them, and made a bunch of kids by multiple men. And they overgeneralize a small subset for the masses.
So should the women here, let me paint this picture. Let's say a man come from a household where a mother didn't give him the tools and the nurturing enough to be able to go out and position himself marketable to other women. Should the women in the market see that as something to give grace to and compassion to? Well, I know a lot of you young boys and this millennials and all that stuff are coming up with single mothers, and y'all are not
right
instilling that masculinity that we desire whenever we start to select men.
Mm-hmm.
So should they give us grace when we're coming to a market and we don't have it? Should they give us time and patience to be able to gravitate to it? Or should they just say, you know what, I'm going to just go with the man who coming in already prepared?
Okay, well, listen, theology said, can a leopard change the spots?
So, how waterproof is the Bearskin Heavy Storm Packable Rain Jacket? Why not take a look and see for yourself? This is the ultimate hiking grade tactical rain jacket that's built for city living too. Why?
Because it's light enough to unfold from your pocket or backpack, but strong enough to handle a storm. It's the only 5-pocket rain jacket that comes with a 10,000 millimeter heavy storm waterproof rating to keep you 100% dry wherever you are. Thousands of men around the world already love wearing the Bearskin Heavy Storm rain jacket instead of their regular rain gear. Why? Because listen, this is not your grandpappy's rain jacket. This is rainsulation. This puppy locks out moisture like a dry storage vault. Every zip is taped with silicone. Every stitch is sealed. You see these regular flimsy rain jackets? Those zips and seams start to leak, the waterproof coating doesn't last, and the rain starts to get in your face. That's why the Bearskin Heavy Storm Rain Jacket comes with watertight rainsulation technology that's fully adjustable to block the rain on the arms, waist, and hood, with the extended peak to keep your face dry. This is the ultralight packable rain jacket that fits in the palm of your hand, making it versatile enough for summer rain, but strong enough for heavy rainstorms. Plus, now you can attach the new Bearskin Hoodie 4.0 to the inside of the rain jacket for a warm and breathable mid-layer that never wets out. Finally, the world's first 2.5-layer hiking-grade tactical rain jacket that blocks rain like a beast, from city streets to mountain peaks. You're seeing this video because we want to offer you 60% off the Bearskin Heavy Storm Rain Jacket with free delivery. And you may not see this video again, so click the button below now to reserve your order, or you can go to cancelrain.com to claim your discount. This limited time offer only runs for a short while, so click below to get your Bearskin Rain Jacket today and choose from 4 colors to suit your lifestyle. Because honestly, what's the point of buying a flimsy rain jacket with a cheap waterproof coating that starts to leak after only a few days? What's worse, most outdoor brands are still using PFAS forever chemicals in their water repellent coating, and when that leaks out, it can cause serious health concerns. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency states that there is no safe level of PFAS exposure. That's why our Beartex water repellent coating is rigorously lab tested and proven to be 100% free from PFAS and forever chemicals. So next time you wear your heavy storm rain jacket or attach it to the new Bearskin Hoodie 4.0, you know you're in safe hands. Each of the 2 exterior pockets on the waist are coated with our PFAS-free Beartex water repellent coating, and the 2 interior pockets are double-sized to keep larger items like your wallet, camera, or snacks. Use the Velcro patch on the arms to customize your jacket, and get an extra shoulder pocket for daily essentials. And when the rain finally stops, the whole jacket packs away, so you can stash it into your backpack, your hoodie, or your car. To order yours, go to cancelrain.com or click below now to activate the 60% off deal. The Bearskin Heavy Storm Rain Jacket already sold out twice last spring, with loads of 5-star reviews on Trustpilot. But hey, don't just take it from us, take it from thousands of men across the world who already love wearing bearskin gear. Bearskin also proudly supports the Fallen Outdoors Veterans Program by donating outdoor gear to those who need it most. So now that you know there's a better alternative, why not get a bearskin? You've seen the proof and how easy it is to buy. So go to cancelrain.com or click below now to activate 60% off with free delivery. The 60% off deal only lasts for a short while, so make sure you choose your size today and reserve your order.
So they're not going to give it because women by nature are selfish. They're more selfish. They're highly solipsistic, meaning nothing outside of self exists. So they're not going to give him the grace unless she's a woman that's a grounded woman spiritually, and she's a woman that's been trained and taught by her father and the women in her community to honor, respect, and nurture men. Women are not taught to do that. Women are taught to be individuals. They're not taught to use their true gift, which is being feminine women. Femininity is a power, man. It's powerful. It's an aphrodisiac. It's hypnotic. That's why men fall in love when they travel abroad. That's why men sometimes lose their mind when they travel abroad, because the level of femininity is so raw. It's like cane sugar. See, men in the West are used to fructose corn syrup, but when they travel abroad, they're getting cane sugar, man. Cane sugar is fructose corn syrup will make you fat, but cane sugar is totally different than fructose corn syrup. They're getting fructose corn syrup in America, which is toxic. But in foreign countries, they're getting cane sugar straight from the cane fields. And it's sweet, it's good, and it's delicious. And that's what they're yearning for, and that's what they're asking for.
I think that's why Coca-Cola is now putting cane sugar in the Coke.
Yes, sir. They're putting cane sugar. Yes, sir. They go back to that cane sugar because that cane sugar is sweeter. Yeah. And also, Darren, when men travel abroad, the women are organic, but the food is organic. Once again, women abroad are not necessarily better by default, but they are better based on their conditioning. They've been conditioned to be better. And when we have these conversations, when other men have these conversations, instead of them auto-correcting and listening to what men are saying, and when they listen, they're not listening, Darren, to be chameleons, but they're listening to be better women to get the results that they want. But they don't care about men. That's why the more indifferent men become, the more men understand how much power that they have, then perhaps the system will auto-correct. Back in the day, Darren, if a woman was a one, she will only hope to get a man that's a one, because men are the arbiters of relationships. But now women that are ones think they should get five, 6, 7, 8, and 9s. I remember back in the day, Darren, women that were grossly obese or they weren't the most attractive, they were a lot more humble. But now social media have told average to subpar women or women that are overweight that they're queens and they're beautiful. And it's led to incessant narcissism. So they have this grandiosity that's not more or less predicated in reality, but it's predicated in a delusion. And when they hear the conversations of you, me, and other men, it's called a narcissistic injury. They cannot accept what we're saying because it's a narcissistic injury. You are injuring my ego now, therefore how dare you? And so instead of auto-correcting, they become deaf and they try to either assassinate your character, they try to minimize, they say they believe in families, but these are the same women that are trying to destroy a man's family or mess up his livelihood because he's telling them something that she's not ready to hear. The Derek Jacksons of the world, the Ace Metaphors of the world, they tell women what they want to hear. They're millionaires. But I can't do that. Could I do it and get the money? Yeah. But I understand, Darren, that money on this planet is temporary. You're not going to take it to you on the other side. I'd rather be a peasant in this current world that we live in and store up my riches in heaven than to be a rich man in the earth and be a peasant in the kingdom of God. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not doing that, brother. I don't care about this money.
You ain't gonna sell out. You ain't gonna sell
out. You ain't gonna take it with you no way. You ain't gonna take it with you. The day you close your eyes in death, your money won't matter, your status won't matter, none of this stuff will matter. The only thing that will matter if you believe in theology, if your soul is right with the Creator, and if you don't go to the bad place that many people don't want to go. But you're not going to take money with you. When my sister passed away, my sister was making good money. She had a $500,000 home, was driving an $80,000 vehicle, a Range Rover, Land Rover. But she didn't take it with her. She's not here anymore. She's gone. So should I be more concerned about lying to people to get something that's temporary, or should I be eternal minded and get something that's going to last forever? I'd rather do the latter than the former, brother.
Oh yeah, same here, brother. So if a man, let's pretend a man has improved his looks, his confidence, his money, his game. Does he owe the West another chance, or is it fair to say I had enough? I'm getting my passport.
No, he don't. No, he doesn't owe the West another chance. There was a guy who was a guy, Mike Jones said back then she didn't want me, and now I'm hot. She's all on me. She don't owe him nothing. He doesn't owe her anything. Listen, like I told you, men are the arbiters of relationships. And so until the woman asks the black man what he wants in a relationship, the black man is not responsible to beckoning to what a woman wants. We're not no tribe. I don't owe the black community anything because the black community has never done anything for me. And so black men don't owe black women anything, just like black women don't owe black men anything. I'm not against black women dating men from other countries. I'm not against black women dating men abroad, but here's the problem. They don't get the same results abroad as they're going to get here in America. They don't. Most American women are invisible to foreign men in other countries because those men in other countries are used to beautiful, feminine women. The average American woman could never compete with the average foreign woman. There's no comparison. And I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm saying that based on what I've seen anecdotally and also talking to other men, they can't compete with foreign women because the beauty density is so strong. Like Luke Cage, she's from Venezuela. She's a pretty woman, very attractive woman. But there are millions of Luke Casleys in Venezuela. There are millions of those same type of women in Brazil or Dominican Republic. They have flat stomachs and they serve their men. They cater to their men. But women in the West, they don't want to cater to their men. They don't want to serve their men because they think by default that they are better than their men. That's why you have simps like Ricky Smiley saying, well, you know what, you don't have to cook and clean. But yeah, he's paying all bills. I'm not paying all bills. I'm not paying all no bills because if you're not a virgin wife ready and if you got kids by other men, I'm not paying all your bills. We're gonna prorate it based on my standard. And for every bad thing you got, I'm gonna prorate it. It's gonna be prorated. I'm not paying full price for something that's been severely used. I'm just not going to. I know that sounds very draconian, but I'm not paying full price. You tell me anywhere in the market where a man pays full price for something that's been used.
So, and I'm glad we had this conversation. I really don't have many conversations about the passport bros and stuff, but I understand it. So the average man, I think you said the average man can go overseas and be treated like a king, live like a king. So does that mean the top tier men in America can go overseas and live like gods?
They can live like gods. No, they can live like gods. If they've done the work, Darren, if they work through understanding the pathologies that have more or less rendered them hopeless, if they do the work, if they change the law in their mind, shout out to Mr. Palmer.
If you have controlling urges for the P word, there's actually new brain scans that reveal 3 helpful discoveries that will help you quit. We're going to dive.
Then they can get the outcomes that they want. Like I said, women abroad are not perfect. And if you're a lick in America, you're going to be a lick overseas. But you got to do the work here first. You got to work on yourself. You got to reestablish what your core values are, or more or less assert what your core values are, because many men, Darren, don't know what their core values are. A man's core values is part of his life compass and his mission. But if he doesn't know what his life compass is, what his life values are, then how can he set boundaries in that relationship? Many men have not been taught or more or less asked to more or less tell the woman what his values are. There was a song there back in the 70s by the OJs. And the OJs said, got to give the people what they want. You got to give that man what he wants if you want that ring. Because back in the day, what a woman had to give a man was virginity, chastity, emotional regulations, and honoring the man. There was an old term that says, no hymen, no diamond. That's what they used to say back in the day. And so, but men now are giving women the things without them earning it, but then they complain about the results. I don't really blame the women as much as I blame the men. It's not, and some of the men, they don't know any better because they haven't been taught. But then when you try to teach them, they still won't listen. Men, if they would get serious about what they really want and become indifferent, then this thing perhaps will auto-correct. But even if it auto-correct and they said bring them back to the table, what is that man getting if he has high standards? Because remember, 33% of men are virgins. So you think a man that's a virgin is going to find a woman that's a virgin in this culture? What is he getting? Is he getting a woman that's wife ready? He's getting a woman that don't have kids by men. He's not getting anything. So why is he leveling up? I'm not saying women abroad don't have kids, but watch this. The single mama overseas, the single mother overseas, it's like the old school single women back in the old days in the South and also maybe in the West or maybe even in the city. They were grateful to be with a man that didn't have kids. And they were humble. But now, women there are not humble. They're highly arrogant. Multiple kids by multiple men, overweight, but they think they're better than the average man due to the delusion called social media.
Well, for the record, if I was to answer why men are leveling up, I think all men should level up for themselves.
I agree.
Well, they become better versions of themselves, and the woman is a byproduct of that process. Right. They get the different options in spite of that. Mm-hmm. But I do know that there are levels to this game. There's levels to the market. There's different tiers of women that hearken or they become magnetized by a specific type of archetypes. Mm-hmm. And I believe if you put in the work, you could mold yourself or you can build yourself into whatever archetype you want. And you can, have access to those options. But I don't recommend doing it just specifically.
No, I agree.
You can do that just for the record.
No. I agree with you 100%. I think we talked about that earlier. I don't think a man should just level up to make a woman happy. A woman's a byproduct of a man's success, but she's not the ultimate success. I don't believe that a woman is just a prize just because she's a woman. I think men and women both are prizes. But I came up with a term, Darren, called the prize catcher. He's the master prize. She's the special prize. If the master prize catch the special prize, he's the master prize and she becomes his catch. She's happy because she's been caught by the master prize. They both are prizes, but the man is the master prize and she's the special prize because according to theology says that the woman was made for man. Man wasn't made for woman. But here in the West, we get it confused. It's so messed up because we live in like a gynocracy. You hear folks saying, honor thy mother and thy father, but that's not what theology said. Theology said, honor thy father and thy mother, not honor thy mother and thy father. In the West, we got it backwards. You hear people saying, honor their mother and their father, but that's not what theology says. It says, honor thy father and thy mother.
Wow. So let me ask you this. Who is responsible? Because those women abroad are so beautiful and so attractive and so submissive and cooperative and all these things that men are saying. Is it the society, is the people who built the structure of those societies, or just...
Yes. Excellent question. Yeah. Listen, there's not rampant feminism in foreign countries. It's slowly seeping in certain parts of Latin countries, but it has not proliferated to the metastasis that it is now in the West. It's coming, it's there in part, but it's a cancer here in the West. If it's in the beginning stages of cancers abroad, it's stage 4 cancer in the West. It's metastasized to stage 4 cancer in the West. Those men set the parameters of their country and their relationship.
A lot of people think you have to eat as soon as you wake up, but guess what? You don't. When you wait a little longer to eat, your body burns more fat and makes ketones, which help with energy.
White men gave white women and black women and other women the power to oppress men that were innocent. You got men now that are Gen Z and also some Gen X men that are paying for something they had nothing to do with. They always think all black men, abused their women back in the day, and all black men had kids outside of wedlock. But then I would ask the question, if that's the case, one of my high school classmates told me that her grandmother had kids by 3 different men while she was married to her grandfather, because her grandfather went overseas and he had the mumps, so he was sterile. But she turned around and had kids by 2 other men. I know in my family, from what I've heard, the woman that my granddad I heard was messing with, she was also a married woman. But we don't hear the narrative about the woman being complicit in disavowing her marriage vows. It's always the man. Men are always encapsulated as being bad, and that's part of that paranoid persecution. And that vicarious trauma that they live through, I call it vicarious trauma by proxy, they tend to push that out into generations of women and men that had nothing to do with it. The women of the newer generation are living through the traumas of something they had nothing to do with, or the men had nothing to do with it. Because as I said earlier, black men never created policies to oppress black women. Black men and black women were muse of the same cause.
So, and I'm glad you said it was the structure or the people who created that structure. So if our society over here in the West is like this, who is responsible for the way this structure is? Is it the men? I mean, like, did we shoot ourselves in the foot? Because I would argue when we went to World War I, World War II, and all these guys, hundreds of thousands of men lost their lives to build this great nation. We didn't think that our women would just turn and say, "We don't need you." Like, can you imagine a Vietnam hero seeing his great grandchildren go out and try to date women, and women are saying, "We don't need you"? Like all of the battles and stuff that we've won for this nation to create this nation, and our women are just turning their backs.
Well, listen, I'm glad you said that, because like I said earlier, I think I heard my dad is 82 years old, and what men now tolerate, men of yesterday would never tolerate it. Men of yesterday got the gold standard. And so it's a very nuanced question, because that men created in whole, no. There were many factors in my mind that created the current mess that we have now. I think it happened in many layers. I think it was planned chaos, but I can't blame it all on men. Men and women both have been conditioned to be saboteurs of their own ignorance. So it's not solely a man's fault, but men do play a role, because when you know better, you do better. But I would say it's solely the women in part, because they allow themselves to become hoodwinked. And when men try to guide them in the right direction, instead of listening, they rebel. And now they're suffering the recompense of their ignorance.
Yeah, it's just crazy. It baffles me. And another question I had was, damn, I lost my train of thought. Did I lose it? No. So in order to hold women accountable, let's just talk about black community, black women. My understanding, in order to hold somebody accountable, you have to enforce the consequences, or you have to remove a privilege, or you have to take away, or you have to walk away, whatever. It seems like we're still procreating. Right. You know, we're not marrying them. We're still giving them the seed. Is there something, I mean, it doesn't make sense for men to come together and say, if we want to change our women or correct them, we have to pull away from them. And do you even think that would work?
Well once again,
because and the reason why I'm asking that is because according to statistics and studies and research, black women are the least desired for marriage. Mm-hmm. They're the least desired on dating apps and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. If black men walk away, there's nothing left. So do you think if we hold them accountable, and again, I remember holding them accountable is enforcing some type of consequences or removing something. Right. Do you think that would actually change black women, or would they just go elsewhere?
Listen, I think what changed maybe some of the younger black women that don't have a lot of damage, but to the older black women that are set in their ways, no. If you remember what I said earlier, Darren, there must be a de-evolution in order for there to be an evolution. We have to de-evolve, meaning it has to be burnt down in order to evolve to what it should be again in the future.
My name is Joel Brevel. I'm a fourth-year medical student at Elson S. Floyd College of Medicine, but online and better known as a medical myth buster.
Theology said you can't put seed on fallow ground. Fallow ground means it's hard. The American woman mentally is hard-headed. She doesn't want to listen to what a man says when she's been conditioned to think she's better, when she's been conditioned to think she can give her virtue away, give her innocence away, and still demand that a man come into her household and marry her and see her as special. So why do we ask for black men and American men, white or black, why do we ask for their allegiance, but we don't ask for the allegiance of the woman? President Kennedy said, don't ask what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. If the woman was made for man, I would say it's incumbent upon her to become the exemplar of that man, not the man to become the exemplar of the woman. We have it backwards in the West. Women in other countries, they honor and they reverence their men, and then they get the men that they want. So while we're always asking men to make sacrifices, when black men died in war, black men built America, our grandfathers built America, black men sent a lot of black women to school to get indoctrinated by the liberal cesspool that we have. But why do we continue to ask black men to relinquish their sovereignty for a woman that's never been trained to be a wife? Theology said, let's let the older women teach the younger women, but they haven't been taught. What man got time to waste his time on women that haven't been taught or they don't have the proper emotional regulation to be a wife? A woman was not, many women now are trying to learn the job on the fly. But women of the past, they were taught to be wives. They didn't have a lot of emotional baggage. They were not sexually promiscuous. A woman that's been sexually promiscuous, many times, many of them they're damaged. And if you're a masculine man that got standards, you don't want that for your wife.
So one of my clients had a question for me, and I told him I would have you on and I would ask you, because you have some understanding of being abroad and all that other stuff.
Right.
He has not had his children yet. Mm-hmm. And his father told him before he died 10 years ago that I want some grandbabies, but he wasn't able to find a wife, a woman to have kids with. Mm-hmm. But he don't want his bloodline to just stop at him. He wants to continue before he leaves. He's wondering if he should just find a woman who wants to have his child, take care of it, and don't have to worry about risking it all in marriage, or just go overseas and have his kids. But he don't know what the laws are like over there. Like,
right. I would study the laws, find him a woman overseas, leave it over there if he need to, and do it there. I don't necessarily believe from a moral perspective or ethical perspective just to have a surrogate. I don't personally believe that from an ethical perspective. But I do like the latter of finding a woman abroad. You go to the Philippines, you can go to certain Asian cultures, go to some Latin cultures, even though a lot of Latin women have children out of wedlock. But Latin women still treat their men. The single Latin woman is better overall than I think the average single woman in the West that has children. Not saying Latin women are perfect. I'm not saying that. You got some ratchet ones over there too, from conversations with other men and from what I've seen with my own eyes. But I would say that they have been taught to be traditional more so than the current ones now. Now the younger generations are beginning to change and become more like the West. But if you're talking about women that's in their 30s, 35-ish and on up, they're still more traditional than some of the neophytes in the 20s or the 23s and 24s. They're becoming more like the West. So male sovereignty means I do what I want to do. I don't have to answer to a woman. I don't have to answer to a man. I don't have to answer to anybody but God. When a man expands his borders, when a man enhances his male sovereignty, he does what's best for him. He don't ask questions. He don't ask permission from a community that never supported him. He does what he want to do. Men do what they want to do. Boys do what they can do. I'm not asking anybody anything. If I want to do it, I'm going to do it. And I dare anybody to say anything about it. I have no allegiance to a community that never supported me as a man. The master said, "Who is my father?" He said that he that does the will of the Father is my brother, my sister. If your consciousness is not the same as my consciousness, then I don't care about your skin color. I think that we got to start looking beyond this skin color or melanin and start looking at the heart of a person, because there are women from other countries that love men, and men have always been the establishers of civilization, life, and community. We don't have to ask anybody for permission. Men in other countries don't ask their women for permission. They do what they want to do.
And I caught what you said. You said the younger girls overseas are starting to get westernized.
Mm-hmm.
How long before, two questions, how long before the women are completely turned? And if everybody's acting like the women over here in the West, everywhere, and what does that say about the average man?
Oh.
Like, what will he do then? Is it AI now?
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's an excellent question. Yeah, some of them are turning to robots, man. They're turning to robots. Look, I heard they got robots, Darren, that look like real women, feel like real women, and they're turning to robots. And I don't think that's healthy for our culture, because there was a study that said recently, Darren, that the birth rate is at its lowest than it's ever been probably in American history. It's at its lowest. We're not producing anymore.
You know what? I believe that, because I ran into this epiphany, if you may, because I had a conversation about a bunch of women, and I was arguing that it's best that you procreate. You find your husband young, you have your kids young. Because I remember when I was younger, and I don't know about you, when I was younger, my great grandmother would read to us, feed to us, bathe us, take us for walks, all kind of stuff when I was a kid. Now, these people are right now at the rate that women are having their kids after 30. Great grandmothers don't exist anymore.
They don't.
They don't. You don't get to see your great. That means a whole generation, a leg of the nuclear family is gone because of the decision to be career driven and financially stable.
Right.
And then have your kids later. So you're taking away an extra hand from the family, which is weird. So I think it is a slow extinction. But I think it's the economy is causing this, right?
Yeah, the economy is causing it, but also the liberal indoctrination is causing it as well. And then, like you were saying earlier about so many women becoming career driven, the advent of social media, the advent of narcissistic traits, people being lovers of self, people being very apathetic. Think about it, Darren. When you and I were growing up, I don't know, you're a young cat. You probably about 35, right? You about
39.
Oh yeah, okay.
Nice try.
You like a little brother. You like a little brother to me, man. But suicide rates were not high in the Black community. The Black community probably was more stronger than any other American, because we had faith, we had community, and we had family. But now suicide rates are not only rising in other ethnic groups, they're also rising in the Black community. And that correlation is the dissemination of the family. That's why I said this thing it was planned chaos. Because in theology, is God, Christ, man, woman, and children. The triune Godhead is an archetype of the family. Luciferians are tied to occultic feminism. So if I destroy the family, I destroy the society. If I destroy the society, not only do I destroy the image of man, but I destroy the image of God. And that's what's been happening, man. And it's been proliferating for the last couple of years.
So it's subliminal, and people are promoting it and pushing the envelope and don't even know it.
Right. When you look at the rise of baby deletions, let me give you an example. My mom had 4 kids by my dad. My oldest sister passed away back in 2001. My mom died recently. But guess what? My mom didn't die by herself. I did a show when my mom passed. My mama didn't die alone. My dad was there, and my dad had his children to support him because we believe in family. The reason why I'm so passionate, Darren, about this, because I'm not saying I'm a perfect man. I'm not saying I've done everything right all the time, but I did have kids out of wedlock. I don't lie to women. I never lied to women to be intimate with them. I'm just a straight shooter. Masculine men don't lie to women. They keep it 100. But my mom had the benefits of having kids, because if my mom didn't have kids, my mom probably, Darren, she probably would have died a long time ago. My mom had cardiac arrest, but she probably would have died years ago if she didn't have kids by her bedside or have kids to support her, love her, and protect her. But women now don't have that. I know women right now that they'll never tell you how they really feel, but they're lonely. The rise of mental health issues are rising in women, and some of it's also probably rising in men that are invisible as well. But definitely these career-minded women that say they're strong and independent. You see it all on TikTok. And so antidepressants, psychotropic medication is rising because they were deceived by feminism. They were deceived by it. And they got into a battle that really they had no business getting involved in. Black people have always been the stepping stool for other people's issues. From the Rainbow Coalition to feminism to immigrant issues, we always got to get involved with other people's issues. And then once they get to the top, they cast us to the side. And so I don't believe in this tribalism where just because your skin color is black, then you should more or less be on my side. Black folks, when they were slaves, had to become one because they were forced into oneness. But prior to coming to the West, they were never forced into oneness. We were from different tribes, but we were forced into becoming one in America. And so prior to that, there were different tribes, different religions, different ideologies. People always make this foolish assumption that Black folks were one monolith, but that's not true. If you go back and look at Roots, the man with the bald head said, who speaks the language of the Fulani? Who speaks the language of the Wolof? They were talking about different tribes. Even though they looked the same, they weren't the same because they did not have the same consciousness. Consciousness always supersedes skin color. The problem in the West, we get too fixated on skin color instead of getting fixated on consciousness. That's why I'm saying I don't owe no allegiance to you because your skin color is black. The people that were the arbiters of my pain many times were black people. Sometimes, not all. The people that never supported me in my ascension were black people. The people that are actually praying for my downfall are black folks. That's not to remove white people and say white people, they themselves are not complicit in some things. But what I'm saying succinctly is that I would not be a slave to skin hue versus a slave to consciousness, which can be righteousness or also a person of high moral integrity. Dr. King said, do not judge a man by the color of his skin, but by the content of his character.
Shout out to Dr. Martin Luther King. And you know what? It's crazy because I asked a group of Black women on a panel conversation because I had discovered a couple videos about men being falsely, it's paternity fraud, but have been put on a child support for kids that are not theirs.
Right.
And they're sending the notice to locations where these men are not able to get it. And then these guys get caught up in they years and years in arrears. And I asked them, and I said, would y'all go out and march so kids can know who their biological fathers is.
I'm glad you said that. I love that.
Mandatory DNA test at birth, or would you march for pro-choice? And the woman said pro-choice.
Right.
And it hurt. It hurt.
Right.
They said they wouldn't.
They wouldn't.
They didn't say whether or not which one, but they said they would not march.
They would
at
not
all,
march.
period.
Right.
They said it was the man's fault. It was like, all you got to do is be honest.
Right.
Man, say that ain't their problem. It hurt me. And that's the women, they have the same skin color as me. So that's when it dawned in on me that, yeah, there is some compartmentalized, or there is sections of Black people that just don't, we're just not, just because we're the same color don't mean we all unified. Everybody is different. And then when I saw that Black Lives Matter had an underlying agenda that wasn't really for Black people, it was really for something else, I was like, yeah, this is all coming out now.
Yes, sir. Yeah. They had a mission statement where they were talking about the annihilation or the minimization of the family. And so what these
mission statement?
Oh yeah, it was. They took it down.
Oh, they took it down.
They took it down. Yeah, because they were getting a lot of backlash. The leader of the Black Lives Matters movement, I can't think of her name. She was living in the white community while she was talking about Black love and Black families and Black communities. All this stuff is a form of cultural Marxism, where they use race, gender issues, and all of that to cause division and chaos. Some call it a Hegelian dialectic, which basically means to bring order out of chaos. And many theologians believe this leading up to the one world order and the one world government. And the AI is part of that, because you got to get rid of the jobs and make people dependent on the system. Look at the 2030 proviso by Carl Swash, whatever his name is. Look that up. By 2030, you will want for nothing and you'll be happy. They're trying to create small communities. And people that don't have a spiritual gaze, they don't understand what's going on. But I know a lot of people mock and laugh, say, oh, you've been saying this for the last 20 years. But I believe we're entering the new age of Aquarius. I believe we're in the latter part of the last times. I really believe that. It's not going to get better in our lifetime. Like I told you earlier, you can write it down. It's not going to get better in my lifetime or your children's lifetime unless something cataclysmic happens.
So how does a man, I have two sons. Mm-hmm. I got a 3-year-old and one that'll be 2 on the 3rd of August. Mm-hmm. What am I supposed to do with my sons when the society is crumbling like this?
You stand firm on the principles and the values that you believe in. I know you're a man of faith because I look at some of your content. You know, you quote faith, and you stand on the promise of the Most High. And you understand that if you're in His hand, that no man can pluck you out. And you understand and look at things through the lens of prophecy by understanding that this is just a temporary situation, and that things will get better after God comes back. But it's not gonna get better in our lifetime. I do feel sorry for your babies. I got a grandbaby. My grandbaby is about 2 years old. She's like a year and some months old. But it's gonna take some of cataclysmic proportion to change the trajectory of where this country and this world is now. But Kevin Samuels was alive. They laughed at him. And there were content creators before Kevin Samuels that, Kevin Samuels has popularized a lot of talking points, but there were other content creators that were saying the same thing Kevin was saying. A lot of things that Kevin was saying with this normal barbershop talk, but he was able to coin it and market it in a nice way. And he made money on it, so bless his soul. But it's not going to change in our lifetime, Darren. Once again, I've been hearing these conversations since it was in the 90s. And it's gotten worse. It's gotten a whole lot worse. The level of delusion, man, is spellbounding. I mean, delusion. I mean, you can show them evidence, and they still fight it. They still dig their heels in, and they don't want to see it.
And you know what? That just makes me go crazy. Like, and I'm glad you brought up Kevin Samuels. Rest in peace, Kevin Samuels. So you got brothers like me and you. You got Kevin Samuels. You got a lot of brothers out here, but it's not enough that are pushing the truth, especially on how relationships, on how you can get outcomes. But then you got panderers that got millions and millions of views and millions of subscribers. And then the women are going to therapy, and 70 to 75% of therapists are women.
Yep.
Why hasn't it dawned in on women that perhaps maybe who you've been listening to is not helpful?
Excellent question. Arrested development. Some of it is arrested development. Is
that the term? And I'm gonna write that down.
Yes, sir. Arrested development. There was a group back in the day called Arrested Development, but it's arrested development. They haven't gone through the successive psychosocial stages of development, but those sad people keep them in their current demise. But a lot of it, Darren, is arrested development.
More boxes, more options. Grainger has over 1,700 box types in stock and ready to help you pack, store.
They are arrested developmentally. And let me tell you something, many folks don't come to therapy. Like a lot of them that tell their husbands to go to therapy, they're not telling their husband to go to therapy because something is necessarily wrong with the man. Shout out to Gail. They're telling them to go to therapy because they want to confirm the biases that they have promulgated against American men or men in the West. So the show I did with the young brother, St. James, there was a white lady talking about critical race theory and how many therapists now are trained to be woke. And I'm not saying all of them. There are some good traditional therapists, but I'm extremely rare. You're not going to find a lot of men like me. You know, I was rare when I was in graduate school because 6'5", you know, I'm a very masculine dude. And, you know, I went through a lot of trouble back then. It was hard making the adjustments, man. Almost didn't graduate, man, because, you know, I don't bite my tongue. And they don't like free thinkers. I'm a free thinker. I don't just listen to anybody for the sake of listening to anybody. I've always been a free thinker. You know, I don't just listen to you and I'm just gonna follow a man just because I don't follow people blindly. I don't feel like there's a man on this planet that's better than me. And so you gotta be a extremely intelligent man and you gotta have character to back it if I'm gonna follow you. But I'm just not gonna fall in line and follow you when I don't see you as my equal. And so I can listen to your position. I can respect your position, but I'm not going to follow you blindly. The problem now, Darren, is that many people follow people blindly and they lack discernment and understanding all the things that are going on.
So this is the last question. Shout out to my man, Willie Mother Beeman. Mm-hmm. By the way, that is the man that is the owner of that company that we promoted today, sponsor. Freedom Flow 24/7. Follow him on Instagram. Check him out. That is his thing. Mm-hmm. But my last question to you: I haven't been in this space as long as you,
right?
But I've been in it long enough to understand that women use this thing called, or if they don't want to hear what I'm saying, or they want to listen to what I'm saying, they say that it's my delivery. Why does that? Because I've seen Kevin Samuels have a calm voice. And a lot of people are looking at the clips where he just reciprocated the disrespect. But what is that, first of all, is that true? Second, if it is, then.
Well, I've watched you on your own show on the Peep, and I don't have any problem with your delivery. I think that your delivery is fine. I think the cognitive dissonance that many of them have, because I've heard people tell me that too. Women expect men to talk like their girlfriends, but also it's a byproduct of negative conditioning because they've never seen masculine men in the families speak the way that you and I do. And some of that is due to men, placating to happy wife, happy life, so they don't raise their masculine voices. They act soft and docile, but also it's a byproduct of them being socialized not to see it. Instead of them listening to understand, because feminine women understand how men think, a lot of times they listen to respond, and they keep this negative cycle going over and over and over and over again because they expect the man to make the adjustment, but they never make the adjustment. And a lot of times their lack of respect for you is what causes you to raise your voice and your cadence. Feminine women keep men grounded, just like masculine men keep feminine women safe. She grounds him mentally, he protects her physically. But many modern women don't know how to talk to men. And then when the man raises his cadence or raises his voice, then he's the problem because she's a slave to her feelings instead of being a slave to principles and being a slave to what's right. Women years ago were more God-fearing and they were a lot more emotionally intelligent and they were raised to be different. But since the advent of the 1960s and the sexual revolution, they had all the men they wanted to have, but they still were not happy. They've done studies there that say that women were happier when they had kids and they had families. And I know they're going to always be arguing, oh, they were barefoot and the men were bad. They always say the men were bad, even though, men, I'm not saying that they weren't bad and abusive men, but let's ask the question, were those men bad and abusive because it was genetic predisposition, they were bad by default, or were those men sometimes abusive or cheated on their wives or did X, Y, Z because they were also byproducts of trauma? Some of those men were traumatized, but back in the day, Black folks didn't go to therapy, they just dealt with it. So some of that was a trauma response, not necessarily a character response, or some genetically that was predisposed in them because they were a man. But we never asked nobody about the pain that granddad and great granddaddy went through, because we don't care about granddaddy's story. Unless she's the victim.
This is a new product called Drops. The gentleman that created Monobag decided that wasn't a big enough challenge. He needed to figure out a better way to mute drums. And he was saying, I don't know, Greg, what do you normally use for muting your drums?
I usually use... There's no value. Some women love to be victims because victims empower them to be and stay in the state of arrested development. And so they're empowering them to become the beautiful women that they can become.
All right, I promise you this is my final question.
No, you're fine, man. You take your time, man. I got time. Take your time.
Look,
don't feel like you got to.
I've read the Bible, and I've seen a lot of the things, scriptures on how a woman is supposed to operate and behave. And when society has normalized the way women are now, you got this sexual liberation, my body, my choice, all this stuff, and just the way they operate, without trying to be a wife and stuff, and fornicating and all that stuff, and embracing casual relationships, there is no way they could still be God-fearing and call themselves religious. What are women replacing God with? Because it's got to be something in their mind, like I can't be a feminist. I can't move like this and still call myself a woman after God.
Yes, sir. Excellent question. Well, what theology said, Daryl, that Mr. McPherson, that they will have a form of godliness, but they deny the power thereof. But also many have a condition called biblical a la carte, where they pick and choose the parts of the Bible that they want to live by. I'll give you a story of a woman that I was talking to one time in couples therapy. She said she was a Christian and she wasn't giving her husband intimacy. And I said, well, ma'am, according to theology, your body is not your own body and his body is not his own body. I said, you both are supposed to take care of each other in the bedroom. Because she was indoctrinated by liberal dogmas and liberal ideologies, she said just because she says her body, and even though her duty is to take care of her husband, she said she don't feel like she got to give a man her body because he reciprocates to her through financial provision. And part of the marriage vow was to honor and obey your husband. And so on one hand, they say they love Jesus, but Jesus said, how can you love me when you don't follow my commandments? Or how can you say you love me who you have not seen, but not love and respect your brother and your sister that you see every day? Or how can you say you love me, but you don't respect and honor your husband? So they have a form of godliness. They don't really know the true teachings of the master teacher because they just have a form. They don't really read the Bible. They read the Bible to confirm whatever pathology that they have, but they don't read the Bible to make change. And that's why they'll never grow. That's why they'll never come into the fullness of their femininity. And that's why they will continue in a state of arrested development. Because think about it, Darren, a lot of churches now keep women in their state of arrested development. Some of these wicked preachers, they lie to them. They don't tell them what they want to hear because they don't want to lose the tithes and the offerings. So it's not all their fault, but it is their fault because when men like yourself and I try to lead them on an upward path, they reject it.
So yeah, I'm gonna put your channel in here, and I'm glad you pushed that knowledge out. It's hard to get people to lean in on, what they believe. A lot of people don't want to be political. A lot of people don't want to lose their clearances, their jobs, all this other stuff, because some of the stuff we talk about, society is trying to outdate it. Mm-hmm. When me personally, I believe you can outdate what God is eternal. He's omnipresent, omniscient.
Right.
Is omnipotent. Mm-hmm. He's before and after and forever. So there's no way you can outdate his principle. So I don't know how they came up with that. But anyways, y'all make sure y'all subscribe to The Culture Clinician. And let me read this super chat real quick. $10 from Willie Mother in Beamer. $10. A 304's final form is a religious woman. Oh, so when they cash in, when they get off the carousel, they turn to God, religion in order to get a moral do-over. Wait until life is almost over and give God the same leftovers they try and give the man. You know what? I think that's why a lot of guys said they don't go to church, because a lot of the women who go to church,
right,
it's after they got out of their whole phase.
Right. You know, you're gonna laugh at this, Darren. I always said that their soul might be saved, but that box is still a sinner. That box is still a sinner, Darren. Their soul's saved, but that box is sinner. Because you can't change what has already been done. And you're right. I take a risk doing this. Sometimes, man, maybe you want to do some different content because you don't want to mess your livelihood up for a couple of dollars. You're not making enough money. The money I make $150 an hour. So do I want to mess my money up doing manhood content where sadly many men don't even support the work that you're trying to do and I do? Why should you put your neck on the line when you don't even get the support? So I'm not saying I'm gonna totally go away from manhood content, but I'm gonna start doing different stuff. I'm gonna probably mix it up a little bit because, the white boys like what's his name, Dr. Ryan Taraban, he gets banked, man. And sadly, you limit yourself when you just more or less focus on one demographic versus being more expansive. Because YouTube is a business, man, and you got to be expansive if you want to grow. You can't just say, okay, I'm gonna stick here. If you want to stick and just talk about male empowerment and only focus on black male empowerment, I like what O'Shea Duke Jackson said one time. You're basically limiting yourself, and it's not because you don't want to do. I do enjoy it. But am I going to put 9 to 10 hours in planning a show and putting the show together and editing to get peanuts when I can take that time to focus on my business and make real money like what you're doing on the side and your side businesses and getting passive income? I can use my time for that. But it doesn't mean that I don't have a passion for male empowerment, but I got to be a better steward with my time. And I got to make sure my time is accounted for. And so just like the young cat, Jeff, that came through, I like the fact that he tells folks, listen, I'm going to charge you a price. If I come out, to see you, you're going to pay me $1,500. I ain't mad at her. And I would do it too. I'm going to start doing it. I'm not going to be doing free stuff and doing free stuff. Because if you don't value your product, the world won't value it. And I think I heard a lead attorney say that. You got to value your product. And I know what I bring to the table. I know my skills. I think my stuff is just as good as anybody else's in YouTube. But I just don't have the time to do all that editing and cutting and, because I work, man. I got other things I'm doing. I work and trying to be a content creator and work full time. It's hard, man. And take care of a family too. It's rough, man.
Yeah, man. And I'm glad you took the time to come over here to have an interview with me. And I'm gonna call you Big Bro, man, because you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Man. Yeah. So the space is, fellas. If y'all listening, man, we need y'all support. More than ever. If we're going to change the game or we're going to influence other men, the only way we can do that is if we get more reach. And the only way we get more reach is if we get y'all to share, like, and subscribe to this content, because there's so many brothers out there. The manosphere is very small. They don't understand the manosphere, the space that we're talking is small compared to all the rest of YouTube. And there's so many other brothers just walking around here oblivious. And we see it day in and day out. We can go on Instagram, we go on the TV, and you see brothers doing some of the foolish stuff that we talking like, damn, did you not hear my video? No, they didn't hear it. They didn't. They never saw it. But we appreciate everybody who did show up. $5 from Q Destiny. All men are incels. The Bitter Truth by Psych Hacks. Kosher know about Dr. Orion Taraban. I don't agree that all men are incels.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but we appreciate y'all pulling up. You got any last comments you want to make, Coach?
I forgot what I was about to say, man. But I would just tell men to rethink what their values are. Whether you are a manospherean or a manospherean adjacent, the manosphere is changing the world, man. It's changing politics. It's changing the conversations. All that. Many times people see the manosphere as something negative that lead to like nefarious behavior. But the manosphere did influence the election. Joe Rogan and many other pundits. Kevin Samuels, he changed a lot of people's perception about the world and dating relationships. But think about Kevin, before his untimely demise, he began to change his mind and say, you know what, it's not even worth it. Right before he died, just like Dr. King was not about peace and unity. Dr. King was becoming more militant, and Malcolm X was becoming the opposite. Kevin Samuels was talking about saving women in the West, but before he died, he was telling men, listen, expand your options and start traveling abroad, because he realized they ain't gonna change, you know. So I don't do comments or commentary because I expect them to change. Like some people call it shame, blame, and explain. I know they ain't gonna change. I do it because I'm talking about trending issues that I see, and this content. But I don't do it with the intent that they're gonna change. Does shame help change behaviors? Yes, but healthy shame does, not unhealthy shame. And I think there's two differences between healthy shame. Unhealthy shame is tied to manipulation, control, and coercion. Healthy change is tied to trying to let you see the error of your way and auto-correct and become a better person. But there are not safeguards there that more or less punishes bad behavior. The safeguards in the West rewards bad behavior and punishes good behavior. Up is down, down is up. And that's why I said it's not going to change in our lifetime. And you can write it down maybe in a couple of years after some cataclysmic happened, but it's not going to change in our lifetime, man.
Well, there you have it. The kosher clinician, the one and only.
The one and only, brother. We got to do this again, man. I enjoy it.
Got to do it again, most definitely. So we'll reach out. I'll send you an email, chop it up with you, man. Show you how to show you the tips, tricks I use on YouTube, and maybe be able to make a difference. But other than that, man, God bless you, man. I appreciate you coming. And like I said, condolences goes out for you losing your mother recently.
No doubt. I appreciate it. Shout out to my man, Chicago Rilla, man. Shout out to that brother.
Chicago Rilla.
It's been a minute seeing him, man. Shout out to that brother. Much love and blessing to him. And yeah, man, losing my mom, man. When my mom died, I died, man. It just made me understand the importance of living life on purpose and just being more intentional with time and being more intentional with people that are intentional with you. So I'll see you on the back end, man. I'll be waiting on the back end. I'll see you in a minute.
All right, brother.
All right.
And there you go. Another show for y'all. Appreciate y'all support. I think we got up to about 200 and maybe 10 people in the chat.
I appreciate everyone tuning in. Thank you for everyone tuning in. This was a great show by Brother Darren McPherson. I really appreciate it, guys. I want to send a special shout out to everyone that showed love on today. Shout out to the International Quiet Storm for being the #1 sponsor with $35. Shout out to Hashim Shabazz for the 2. And shout out also Brother Tim Howard. Good to see you, Brother Tim, for giving me 5 members. I greatly appreciate that. And then also to the brothers that donated on the Cash App. I'm going to give a special shout out to, once again, special shout out to Brother Mujahid for the 7. Good brother, respect him. Hold on. Shout out to the Wall Report being an excellent sponsor. I really appreciate it, for the 24. And also shout out to my good friend St. James Palmer for that 20. So you guys have been awesome. I really appreciate you guys for sure tapping in. Thank you to my brother, the International Quiet Storm. You guys are awesome, man. Small numbers, man. I want this channel to grow, but like I said, guys, I'm super busy, man. I had to prioritize my time moving forward, man. And so thank you to everyone that donated, guys. I really appreciate it. And we're going to sign off, guys. We're going to sign off. I really appreciate it, guys. You guys were awesome. And if it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, guys, it ain't right. I appreciate all you brothers tuning in. And guys, we're going to end it here. Y'all be well. Fire for your mind. The Kosher Clinician. Fire for your mind. The Kosher Clinician.
If it ain't seven, it ain't kosher. Heaven and hell, that's what they told you. Real men put the strap down and we can toss them. Young heads pick it back up and young dolphins. This is our culture. Now we talking kosher. Clinician, masculinity issues. Absent fathers who miss you. Mama drama don't kiss you. All a part of the ritual. This is how they get you. Separate the men, women, clipping babies pretend to. Damn. Lovers, haters, acting like vultures. If it ain't seven, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. If it ain't seven, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. If it ain't seven, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world